Hello and welcome to Ukraine Today. My name is Vladimir Solohub. Just last week, a jury trial in the Russian court in Chechnya found two Ukrainian citizens, Mr. Karpyuk and Klich, guilty. And this is the most recent case of sentencing Ukrainian citizens in Russia on politically motivated charges. Join me now to discuss the most recent developments in these cases is the coordinator of Let My People Go campaign, Ms. Maria Tomak. Ms. Tomak, welcome back to Ukraine Today.
Hello.
So, Ms. Tomak, apart from the most famous case of Nadia Savchenko, which everybody is most likely following, there is a number of other Ukrainian citizens who are being tried in Russia and who have been found guilty in Russia on politically motivated cases, grounds. So, can you tell us what is the latest on that?
I can say that partly these Ukrainian citizens are situated in Russian Federation, but some of them are in the occupied Crimea. And all of those people who are in Russian Federation, they actually got their sentences, almost all of them, I mean all of them, but in Karpyuk and Klich's case, at the moment we have no idea about the number of years which will they get by the judge. But as of those who are in Crimea, they are now on this, all of these cases are now on the stage of pre-trial investigation. And one of the cases, which is the so-called Muslims case, Crimean Muslims case, it's now transferred to Russian court in Rostov-on-Don, where, by the way, Sentsov and Kolchenko, famous political prisoners, were also judged. So now this case is in the court, but those Crimean Tatars who are charged of being terrorists, they are situated now in Simferopol in the pre-trial detention center, and the connection between the court and those who are accused of being terrorists is by video conference.
Mr. Tomak, well, this case of Mr. Karpyuk and Klich was also quite famous. First of all, the Russian prosecutor tried to involve the former Ukrainian Prime Minister, Mr. Yatsenyuk, as one of the co-defendants. Secondly, they're accused of participating in the Chechen war back in the 90s. And there was a number of threats to the relatives of these prisoners. So what is happening with this case? Because there were reports just last week that the threats to the relatives, they continued. Is this the case?
I wouldn't say that this case is famous, unfortunately. Savchenko case is famous, Sentsov case is comparatively famous, but this one is not, unfortunately. Although I would say that probably this case is the most brutal. Because of, first of all, because of the case is totally falsified, it's just made up. And the second reason is because of the level of the human rights violations against Ukrainian citizens which they faced, starting with awful tortures, inhuman degrading treatment, and they were not let to see Ukrainian consular for more than half a year, for example. And there are lots of the violations. There is no, at the moment, I cannot see the threats for the relatives. Because they are not there. The relatives which were witnessing in the court, they got back to Ukraine safely thanks to Ukrainian consular in Rostov-on-Don. But still there is a threat for Karpyuk and Klich themselves. Because we all understand that Chechnya is not the safest place, even in Russia. Of course, the second thing which is very important is that Klich, Stanislav Klich, he has the mental problems with his mental health. Because of all those tortures which were used against him. He was tortured for more than 2 months, just imagine that, with all kind of tortures which you can imagine, starting with electrical current, and even medicines were used against him.
Was this all being done to get the confession out of them?
Yes, exactly. To get the confession against themselves, against each other, against such persons as you mentioned, like Yatsenyuk. It's not only Yatsenyuk, but other Ukrainian political persons who are famous as politicians are also in this case.
Mr. Tomak, if we're talking generally about all these cases, the fact that they were found guilty, similarly as with Savchenko, this is a good development for the Ukrainians, because only after the Russian court found guilty, the possible negotiations of the release or extradition or exchange could begin. Is that the case?
Actually, we were hoping in this case, since we're dealing here with the jury, we were hoping that this jury will be independent and that they will take the independent decision. But they did not. Probably we think that probably they were threatened, that there were some attempts to influence them, and probably they were successful, actually. So it is actually the only case where we managed to get the jury. So that's why we were hoping, that's why we were dealing very closely with the evidence, gathering the evidences, and we looked for those who can confirm the alibi of Karpiuk and Klich. But that was not very successful, I would say. But still, now as for me, it's the only way which is the most the right way, is to hold the negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian sides and to get them back via the political negotiations.
So can we talk a little bit about that, Mr. Tomak? Now that the cases in the court of first instance have been decided, have been resolved, apart from Karpiuk and Klich, where the exact sentencing is still pending, has something been started on the Ukrainian side? Have the negotiations been initiated between Ukrainian government and the government of Russia to get these people back?
This is something which we try now to deliver this idea to Ukrainian officials, because there is no one coordination center which would help the negotiations about all of Ukrainian prisoners in Russian Federation and Crimea. Unfortunately, it's not right, because of course there is a Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs which do lots of things regarding this, helping these Ukrainian citizens, but still there is no one center which would help these negotiations. And that's why, for example, recently we got to know that Gennady Afanasyev from the so-called Sentsov group, and Yuri Savchenko, 73 years old spy, they were transferred from their colonies to Moscow, to Lefortovo. It's the pretrial detention center of FSB. The problem is that we have no idea what is going on there, why they were transferred there, whether there are any political agreements that they will be transferred to Ukraine, that they will be exchanged to someone here in Ukraine.
So, Mr. Tomak, are you saying that right now various Ukrainian government agencies are dealing with this, or nobody is doing anything?
As it often happens in Ukraine, everyone is doing something, but there is no coordination. And what is most important, there is no the person who is responsible for something. Nobody wants to take the responsibility, because it's the serious case, it's the people's life, it's a very high political price of all these people. It's not even those who are held by the so-called LPR and DPR. It's more serious, so that's why it's the question who will be responsible for that. We would like to do that, but we have no access to those who can be exchanged and transferred to Russia. Unfortunately, it's not our case, but if somebody needs our help, we're ready to assist.
But what kind of actions you would expect from the Ukrainian government, except for establishing this one coordination center for exchange of prisoners or release of prisoners? What they have to do? Because in order to exchange, Ukraine needs to offer something to Russia, and apart from the two special FSB officers, Ukraine doesn't seem to have anyone high profile.
I'm not sure that we don't have. Probably we have someone else. The case of GRU officers is the most famous, but I'm sure that we have someone else in Ukrainian prisons or cells or pretrial detention centers who might be interesting for Russia. But I have no concrete information on that. But apart from these negotiations, this center should, or the person responsible for that, I don't claim that that should be a formal. It can be non-formal center. So that person or center should take care of all of those people who are held in Crimea. Since Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they say that they are not responsible so much for Crimea because, of course, Crimea is Ukraine. So they cannot provide the consular assistance and to support these people. I mean, the relatives, for example, of Crimean Tatars, and not only Crimean Tatars, who are held in captivity, basically in Crimea. So they need the simple attention from the side of Ukraine. It's a very simple thing, but they don't feel it. Nobody
is your initiative doing something to convey this message to the Ukrainian government? And if so, who are you talking to? Who are you convincing to set up this coordination center? And who are you offering to take up this job?
We are offering to different people in different institutions. I'm not sure that I can say that because it's not the official meetings, but we are passing these signals thanks to also to media and like you. Thank you for that. So it's just a very simple thing, but that should be done. And now all the support, for example, to Crimea and those who are held in Crimea goes from the civil society representatives, but that is not enough. If Ukrainian government claims that Crimea is Ukraine, that means that we have to pass the signal that Crimea is Ukraine, and all of those who are illegally detained in Crimea should be supported by Ukrainian government and by the president himself through his representatives.
What about the prisoners in Russia? Who, in your opinion, should take charge in that?
Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs is taking charge of that, and I wouldn't say that they don't do their job. I would say that they do. But now is the moment, as you said, we have all the sentences. So now the moment where very concrete negotiations should start, and very concrete person should be, or the institution or whatever, should be responsible for that.
Well, looks like some very complex issue here. Ms. Tomak, many thanks for finding the time to come and talk to us and shed some light on this very delicate issue. We were discussing the fate of Ukrainian political prisoners in Russia as well as in Crimea with the coordinator of Let My People Go campaign, Ms. Maria Tomak. I'm Vladimir Solub. Thank you for watching Ukraine Today.